It's kind of interesting. I was talking earlier today about the transfer portal, and one question, talking about NIL, and again, name, image, and likeness has been discussed a lot in the media. There's been a lot of questions about it and so forth. Obviously, Dog Post, and I've done one of these deals before, and it's not what people make it seem to be, I don't think. But here's what Kirby said. He said NIL. Now he's being asked about retaining players, and I'm assuming there's some discussion, sort of. Um, he's not asked about recruiting players, okay, but he's asked very specifically about retaining players. So guys who could, or who are draft eligible, but maybe it doesn't work out. He says NIL is a part of that, but it may be dangled as a carrot in some places. But really, it's about, do you want to be a part of this team? Do you want to grow and get better? Do you want to do, this is the important part. Do you want to get a chance to do what Devontae Wyatt did? Do you want a chance to do what Christopher Smith did? Do you want to have a chance to do what Jordan Davis did? Do you want to have a chance to do what Quay Walker did? And he goes on to add, there's great opportunities to move from a late draft pick with your grade to an early round draft pick. That's not really what I'm concerned with right now. I'm concerned with making sure our football team is developing in all stages and phases. We have guys who are at the stage of, he's going to start next year. He needs to get ready to play. Um, and the, so Devontae, specifically Christopher Smith, Devontae, and Quay Walker are great examples of guys that stay the entire time. I'm not aware of a deal in NIL that Christopher Smith has done that I'm aware of. So I can't speak to it. He could be getting an NIL deal with a, I mean, I don't mean this bad, but like what's a dry cleaning company in Clarkston, right? I mean, I don't know, but we don't know the deals because they're not disclosed publicly. The university knows them, but they don't have to make them public that I'm aware of yet. There could be lawsuits involved there. Who knows? But um, NIL is a fraction of what's going on here. Just let me say this real quick. Hey, if you want the book, pick it up. You're running out of time for me to get it to you before Christmas. Order it today, DAWGSTRUCTION. If you're not comfortable with that, go downtown in Athens to Red Zone. Our friends there on Clayton Street, they've got way more than just the book. If you go there, you'll get the book and a shirt, but they've got a ton of stuff. All any sort of Christmas stuff that you want, any sort of holiday stuff, whatever, that's the place to go. Um, Downtown in Athens, it's worth driving over there from Gwinnett County and Monroe and everywhere around Athens. It's worth it. Honestly, it might not be. It's kind of worth it to drive from Augusta if you have the time. But anyway, NIL is not quite what people are making this more than it is. All that NIL deals are is a supply and demand situation. I have X deal for you. Will you agree to do X deal for X amount? The answer is yes or no. That's basically it. And that deal can be anything, that's legal. Uh, you know, and I have a car dealership. I want you to be the face of our car dealership for your time at Georgia. I will pay you $4,000 a month, and this is what's required. Are you willing to do that? And the answer is either yes or no. And I would say that people kind of, it seems to me like people think that folks are just straight up writing checks, and like that's the bulk of this thing, and like, uh, oh, well, we'll just pay you $80,000 to stick around. I mean, that's not the way that, first of all, 80,000, that's it. Like, if you go from being a six-round draft pick to a second-round draft pick, or in the case of Quay Walker or Devontae, a seventh round to being a first-round guy, and we're talking about 20 million guaranteed money. I don't know if that's exactly right, but it's over 10 million. So, Devontae and let me spell it, Devontae Wyatt. Now, so Devontae, I met Devontae not so far from where we both grew up in Towers High School. He was just a guy who could really run fast, man. I mean, he could run fast. But coming into this senior year at Georgia, it's not like he was, certainly going to be um, a first round draft pick. Like it was like, hey, is this guy going to be a top 100 guy? Well, he just kept going and working. That's way more important than any NIL deal. You're not going to get an NIL deal that's worth this. His guaranteed at signing was $12.8 million. That is drastically more than any NIL deal ever. I mean, and it has the opportunity to be worth, in 5 years, to be worth $80 million, or maybe not 80, say $55 million guaranteed. I've never made $55 million. I've made more than $1 million. So I can assure you that one is way more than the other. And you want to go for the higher one. And like slinging chicken or signing some autographs for dog posts, that's nothing. Like that's not real money to these guys. And the eye on the prize is it worth my trouble to, take away from my training or my rehabilitation or my studying of um, of this sport? Is it worth a $50,000 deal or a $20,000 deal to do that? Usually the answer is probably not. But folks, I think have a do not understand. Like I see these valuations of players, they are not based in reality at all. They're not. So I don't know who's coming up with this stuff, but it's not based in reality. Um, that's not how social media works. That's not how branding works. We did a deal with Keely Ringo because Keely Ringo was on the cover of this book. That's why we did the deal with Keely Ringo. I would have been happy to do a deal with Nakobe Dean, but I didn't really wouldn't make sense. So, it has to make sense, all this stuff. Like, frankly, like, what is Arian Smith's NIL value? Like, I'm not running Arian Smith down. What is his value? Do you know who has value on this team? I can tell you who they are very specifically. Stetson Bennett, Keely Ringo, Brock Bowers. That's the top three. And after that, I would say it's not what people think it is. It's not what people think it is. And, you know, this is, it's just not based in reality. I mean, um, you know, to say, I'm just going to take any player, Dylan Fairchild. Like Dylan Fairchild was a top 100 player. He's an offensive lineman, so, not sexy. Dylan Fairchild, if he were walking down the street, people would not know who he is. They don't know who he is. That's the problem. Name, image, and likeness, like Dylan Fairchild name. I bet you if you asked 80 Georgia fans if Dylan Fairchild played for the Georgia Bulldogs, I don't know if 35 of them would know the answer to that question. I am certain 35 of them would not know what he looks like. So this is an overblown aspect of our sport. It is really great for Stetson Bennett and for anybody who was at the Heisman ceremony this past time. It's great for them. But I mean, it's not the same thing, but if like Stetson Bennett's walking through Times Square, people do not know who he is. These guys are not Michael Jordan. They're not LeBron. This is not a dead giveaway like Giannis. Like, oh my gosh, Giannis. No, people don't know that. In Athens, sure, but um, I just don't think people realize what reality is on this thing. And the data is, I'm trying to think of who does these valuations, and you know, Arch Manning. Okay, maybe he would really be worth a lot of money. But all this other stuff is just like I don't know. Like we have a database that has women's basketball players in it. Like what? They work. They get up and practice, and they have a job. It is women's basketball, but they have not a lot of value in the NIL world. And the notion that they would have whatever it may be, I just don't think that this stuff is based in reality. And so we're talking about something a lot that is really not real world for 95% of the athletes out there. I mean, if a men's tennis player at Georgia can get a deal where that men's tennis player is getting paid $150,000 a year by Wilson to play with Wilson tennis rackets, then man, you'd be all over it. That person would be all, that's never going to happen. This is not going to happen. What's the value for Wilson? There is no value for Wilson. I mean, the value is getting people like me to talk about it, getting fans to talk about it, and it's just not there. I mean, like it's not. It exists, and there is value. This is a good thing. This is the free market. The free market dictates that your value is what you can get, and I just don't think that. It's not worth what people are thinking. And people think it's worth something that it's not. That's all I have to say about it.